what's your emergency?
Welcome back to That Wee Woo Show, a podcast where we watch and discuss episodes of the ABC show 911. I'm Ellen.
I'm Alice.
And I'm Bex.
And welcome everyone to our wrap-up episode for Season 2. We've made it all the way to the end. Amazing.
Finally got to Season 2.
Chim's not bleeding out.
I know, it's
exciting.
so much has happened. It feels like a completely different wrap-up to the, well, apart from the fact that it is a completely different wrap-up. We only had 10 episodes to talk about in Season 1. This time we have 18. So, yeah, a lot more has gone on, and we're going to try and make some sense out of it in this episode. Firstly, we wanted to say thank you to everyone who's been listening to our Season 2 episodes, and we really appreciate your support. You've been sharing some of our posts on social media. We've been leaving us some comments. We love it that you've done that. Thank you very much. We wanted to reintroduce ourselves basically because I have a feeling that if we get some new people coming in the future, they may just start with some wrap-up episodes, I feel like. So we might just say who we are and how we've come to watch the show and talk about it for any new listeners that have joined us now. So who wants to start?
Maybe I'll go first since I think I've been the one watching the show the longest out of the three of us.
Okay.
So, hi, I am Bex. I have been watching the show since the end of Season 6 when that was live on TV, and I was a victim of the Supernatural to 911 pipeline. All of my Supernatural mutuals were watching 911 and were screaming on social media about this ship that they were sure that was going to go canon, so I immediately jumped on board, binged all the episodes, caught up live for the Season 6 finale, and just have not stopped watching since.
Awesome. Do you want to go next, Alice?
Yeah, I guess I'll go next.
Okay.
I'm Alice. I've only been watching since Season 7, but I was sort of following the show vaguely on social media since Season 4. Because, yeah, same thing, Supernatural to 911 pipeline. A lot of my mutuals were watching and screaming about a specific moment in Season 4. And I was like, oh yeah, and I literally knew it as the gay firefighter show. I had no idea what the show was called. I'd occasionally check the wiki for it, but I was like, I'm not watching until this ship actually goes canon, because I've been there, done that. I'm not doing this again. Then Season 7, obviously, there was a moment that made everyone seem to think that it was full steam ahead, and I was like, yeah, okay, let's get into this. And I've been absolutely addicted ever since. I knew that the brain rot would take me, but it's insane.
Hooray for the brain
Supernatural
rots.
brain rot didn't inspire you to join a podcast, did it?
Well, I mean, that's how I met Ellen, so...
All right, so as you've probably gathered by now, my name's Ellen. I am also a member of the Supernatural to 911 pipeline. I'm a content creator for Supernatural for many years now and have been peripherally aware of the gay firefighter show for a while as well, but I hadn't started watching it. I'm not even sure if it was available in Australia for a while. I don't know. Supernatural had ended and I was just still hyper-focused on that for a long time, or other things. But then after the things happened in Season 7 in the show, I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready for another ship in my life. And I thought, because I'm watching it for the first time and trying to avoid being spoiled for future stuff, I know some things that are going to happen and the vague kind of way things have played out over the years, but there's a lot that I don't know yet, so I'm excited to kind of keep going with it and find out. It's, in a way, it's torture watching it week to week, and but I mean, I guess it's a fraction of the real experience that people have when they watch a show week to week anyway, right? So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. Season 2's been great.
And I guess as a general introduction for all three of us, you might have noticed that we are Australian.
Yes.
So I think that sets us apart from some of the other podcasts that you might have listened to about 911, in that there are times that we have absolutely no idea what is going on our screens.
Literally.
We rely on you, our dear listeners, to educate us as to what exactly is going on.
And none of us are medical professionals either, so sometimes we try and work out what's happening on that side as well, and we have no idea, so apologies in advance if we come up with some batshit theory that is just totally wrong. That can happen. Can and does happen.
And does happen,
But we have great time doing it, so whatever, we hope you do too. All right, so season 2.
God, yeah, we had a lot last season. So we were... I'm not going to go through, like, every storyline, but I will do sort of a dot point about the, like, topics we covered, I guess. So we were introduced to Eddie and his son, Christopher. We were introduced to Maddie. We dove more into Bethina, which is Bobby and Athena's relationship. Buck, we left Buck at the end of season 1 with his, like, first serious girlfriend walking out on him, I guess. So he gets closure on that this season with breaking up with her and moving out of her house. Maddie has her ex-husband stalking her, and then his death. We have the start of Madney, which is Chim and Maddie's relationship. We have Eddie and Shannon, and then Shannon's unfortunate death. And then we end with Buck getting his leg trapped under the ladder truck.
Oh, yeah. It is a lot. You're right. It's been quite a journey.
It has been quite a journey.
But it was nice to actually have a journey this season. I think that the writers really took advantage of the fact that they had those 8 extra episodes to sort of stretch storylines out, rather than try and cram them all into to 10 episodes, and it actually allowed them to have some episodes where they sort of stepped out of the main storyline, and do the Begins episodes to learn a little bit more about the characters' backstories.
Yeah, previously we only really knew about Bobby and a bit of Hen, but now we know a lot more about Bobby and Hen, and also Chimney.
Yes.
Yeah, we had like 3 Begins episodes in this season, right?
Yes.
We didn't have anything previously except for...
We had Point of Origin, where we found out a little bit about Bobby.
Yep.
But even that was just like a small snapshot of his past, where then we got to Bobby Begins again, and they kind of expanded, and we got a little bit more about the aftermath of what happened in Minnesota and how Bobby got to Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's funny having these... maybe it'd be different if you're watching this live, obviously, but because these were aired in 2018, 2019, and having flashbacks to previous years, but because they're already 5 years ago for us anyway, it kind of loses a bit of impact, I think, having the flashbacks for that time, because it's not like, I don't know how to describe this. It's like it wasn't far enough back in time that it felt like a really long time ago, because it already kind of feels like a long time ago to us, because it was like pre-COVID, like it was, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm describing that very well, but...
Time is so wibbly-wobbly on this show anyway that who knows how far in the past it was.
Yeah. And I guess...
It can be as far in the past as you want it to be.
That's right.
For the season 1 wrap-up, we did our likes and dislikes.
Yep.
So let's maybe go that way. That might spark some conversations. So let's start with favourite character from season 2.
Mine hasn't changed. Mine are still Buck and Chim.
I don't remember who I said my favourite character was last season.
You said, and I quote, you also loved Chim, but you found that you really loved Hen.
Okay.
So Chim and Hen were your favourite in season 1. So has that stayed the same? Has that changed? Have your love for them increased now that you've heard their backstories? Or has someone else stolen your heart?
No, I do
What a man,
like.
what a man,
Okay,
what
so
a man,
I love.
what a mighty good man.
No. Like, okay, this is going to be controversial, perhaps, but I do love Chim. I think he's my favourite, mostly because he's had a great journey this season. Like, he started off quite, I don't know, kind of isolated and down after whatever happened in the first season. Like, he lost a lot of things. And obviously now we know that with the Chim Begins that he lost people in his life previously as well. He lost Kevin, and that hit him pretty hard. So we know that he has lost people in the past and he's lonely, I guess. So for him to get his story with Maddie, and even though he did get stabbed again and lay on the ground bleeding for weeks, he has come through it all and he's in a good place now, and I think that's really heartening, and I love him. Hen, I still love Hen, but the thing is I feel like she hasn't been in this season a lot. Like, she's been there the whole time. She's been involved in all of the stories in different ways. She's still, funny and snarky and lovely to everybody, or like, most of the people. But I feel like she hasn't, apart from Hen Begins itself, she hasn't really had any developing storylines through this whole season. Does that sound right to you?
I think you are forgetting. I think Hen's storylines were very much in the early first half of the season when we got Eva coming back, Denny's biological father.
Wasn't that just one more episode,
Denny's
though?
biological father.
That was in that Awful People episode, right? Which was around the same time as Hen Begins. So apart from those two that little microcosm of the season.
Like, Chim definitely has more this season than Hen does.
Anyway, that aside, I love all of the characters, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I'll just say it now so I don't forget about it. They gave themselves in this show, they've got such a huge ensemble cast and so many characters to involve in every storyline that because they had more episodes in this season, they gave them a lot more room to give everyone something to do. But they also increased the number of characters because even though we lost Abby, we gained Eddie and Maddie as well. So it was like everyone just had a bit of storyline. Like, they had to spread it out. They had more episodes to do it in, but they still had to try and give everyone something to do in all of the seasons. So, yes, a couple of the characters maybe didn't get as much screen time, or not necessarily screen time, but, quality plot arc time as others.
Okay.
What about you, Bex?
Well, my favourite character from the last wrap-up episode, because we made it specifically season 1, it was Abby. So it kind of has to change this season because Abby was not in this season.
She got a mention a couple times.
Yeah, but I don't think I can say
Buck
that
was living in his invisible girlfriend's house.
I don't think that I can say that my favourite character is the one that just gets, name dropped every couple of episodes.
Her absence was loud in the first few episodes, and then we just forgot about her after that.
But I don't think it will come as a surprise to anybody when I say that my favourite character from season 2 was Eddie Diaz.
Mm-hmm.
What a man, what a man, what a man, what a man.
I am unsurprised.
Considering how hard I simp for him on the podcast, nobody's going to be surprised about that. I am actually surprised at how much he is my favourite, though.
Yeah.
I think
especially with season 2, because we only really know him quite on a shallow level at this stage.
Yeah, that's pretty much why I wouldn't say that he would be my favourite yet, because and even on a shipping level, there are some moments in this season, but they're not really mates yet, I guess Eddie's he comes across as quite flighty, I guess, non-committal. He doesn't really want to talk to Shannon anymore. And then when he's all in, then it's her that's pulling away, you know, like he's, I don't know.
Maybe I like my men non-committal and flighty and shallow. But he's just damn pretty.
Non-committal's a very interesting way to describe Eddie. I'm absolutely not saying you're wrong. I just feel like we need to bookmark
He's very committed to Chris, which is great.
He's very committed to certain things.
Yes.
He doesn't want to settle. But maybe moving himself and Chris to LA was like the best thing he ever did to get away from his old life and
his parents.
Sorry, I derailed.
No, that's absolutely not
that
derailed.
Is what this episode is all about, is being derailed with our thoughts about the season.
No, Bex and I are just sitting here with popcorn, it's fine. I do want to give an honourable mention to...
I love with these wrap-up episodes, we're just like compiling evidence that when we get to the end of certain seasons, we can just say, hey, do you remember like 3 seasons ago when you said this?
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm Bobby sitting in that chair in that little room at the moment. Like, ask me your probing questions. Go on.
I do definitely want to give an honourable mention to Maddie, who is also one of my absolute favourite characters. Like, every time she cries, I cry. I love Maddie so much.
Can we talk about Maddie's arc a little bit in this season?
Yeah, let's do it.
As she came in with a bang in the first episode, like breaking into her brother's apartment and having a shower, like...
And having her brother walk in on her?
Like,
having her brother try and molest her? Yeah.
It's not even his apartment, by the way. It's someone else's. Like, how did she... Anyway, we're getting into the...
boobs.
What the hell of it all.
She got in by the virtue of boobs. I think she established that.
And, like... This season has such a great arc for her where, like, it's a terrible arc, but, oh my God, it was well done, I thought. Like, that we discovered who Doug was. Like, first we discovered that she had got away from an abusive relationship. And then the introduction of Doug later was just, so terrifying. Really well done. And then, obviously, we had the kidnapping, like we had the fight or flight episode, which is going to be in my favourite episode list later when we talk about that. I don't want to jump around to everything too quickly. But, the resolution of it all was particularly sort of horrifying, but she's come out of it, freer, I suppose. And, it would have been perhaps nice to see the sort of trauma of all that a little more obvious in the end of the season. We don't really see that. Like, she's obviously thinking about leaving the Dispatch and everything, but she ultimately decides not to. They do gloss over it
a little. Yeah, she's like, okay, the worst has happened and now you are back to being happy. Yeah,
because she sort of gets back with Chim and takes comfort in him, I guess. So she ends the season in a much happier place. But we don't see much of the trauma yet. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's more to come.
I guess that's the downfall of it being a network television show. That, the angst and the trauma and the deeper emotional levels are not something that you want to put on your week to week.
Yeah, it could have been a much more depressing show.
Your general audience is not going to be interested in probing the emotional depths of a character over an extended period of time. They want the fun emergencies, and they want the romance, and they want the high level, the entertaining drama, not the sobbing into your tissues and feeling anxious every week kind of drama.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to say a really big thank you to everyone who's given us some feedback for this season for us to talk about in this episode as well. Thank you. Thank you for sending that to us. Really appreciate that. There was someone who sent in something about Maddie and her journey. So first we've got to say a big thank you to Beckett, who gave us some feedback on Maddie's arc. So I'll just quickly read a bit of it now just to highlight our points on Maddie. They say, I really liked how they did that arc, the gradual way we were introduced to the trauma Maddie went through and how it still affects her daily life, including triggers like Christmas decorations. And then when Doug kidnaps her, I think they would do a really good job preserving her agency and strength as a character, something that shows often quite struggle to do when telling stories about female victims of domestic violence. It would have been very easy and fitting with the procedural genre for them to have one of the hero characters arrive and rescue Maddie like a damsel in distress, but instead they allowed Maddie to recapture control of the situation using her intelligence and her strength. And she didn't win by coincidence, she actually outsmarted him, which was like, I absolutely agree with that's true. That particular episode was such a great example of writing strong characters that can get themselves out of situations rather than having someone come and save them, which is great. So thank you, Beckett.
Thank you so much, Beckett. Yeah, I think we discussed it in that episode that, like Buck doesn't come to the rescue. He gets there after to support her. But ultimately, like, Maddie gets herself out of it.
Yeah, and it's like the same. It's like when people are in situations like that and they need to get their own strength, find their own strength to leave the situation to start with. I mean, obviously, hopefully it never comes to actually murdering somebody. But this is like an extreme case. But yeah.
There is another part to Beckett's feedback about what you talked about, Ellen, with continuing Maddie's arc. He said, my only issue with the whole arc is that I wish we had seen at least a glimpse of Maddie living with the weight of taking her husband's life. Maybe her going to therapy or perhaps talking to Athena about it. In real life, that isn't something she would easily shake off. He was a horrible, evil man, but she still loved him at one point. And so for survivors, your feelings toward your abuser are often incredibly complex, and I would have liked to have seen that explored.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Beckett, for your awesome thoughts.
Bexism, who is responsible for some of the great edits that are on TikTok and Twitter, that I absolutely enjoy. They write, they thought that Maddie was a huge addition to the show, that she showed more empathy and care than Abby did. So the random emergencies suddenly had a lot more emotion behind them, and she also filled a gap that was missing. And she is forever grateful for Jennifer Love Hewitt for saying that she should be with Chimney and not with Eddie, by the way, because Chimney and Maddie are the cutest couple on TV at the moment. They just work so well together. And yeah, I love that little random bit of knowledge that Maddie was supposed to be Eddie's love interest. And Jennifer Love Hewitt rocked up on set one day, took one look at Kenneth Choi, took one look at Ryan Guzman and went, actually, no, I want that one.
Yeah, I want that one. Which, yeah, I'm so glad they did, because, like, I feel like Chim and Maddie are at a more similar place.
You know, they just fit. Their stories fit together very well, don't they? The way they've written them.
But now I want to write a fanfic to see what the road not taken would look like.
Oh. But, like, would it have lasted? Because, you know...
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, God, no. Absolutely not.
No. Eddie Diaz is a menace to women.
AU when Eddie dates Maddie just to get close to Buck, or...
Oh, my goodness.
I have no idea. I will put that in the back burner.
I actually read a fic recently where it was like a AU meet cute between Maddie and Chimney, and it's like Chimney's thoughts were like, yeah, she kind of looked like Buck, which he wasn't going to look at too hard.
Oh.
Oh, God. Well, thank you, Bexism, for that one. And we also had, I'll just put, like, we're just chopping bits of everyone's feedback out. But Lucy, who is our Aussie bestie, Mishimi Hunk on Twitter. Hello, Lucy. Love you. We have, she says that Fight or Flight, why can't I say the name of this episode? Fight or Flight is one of her favourite episodes. And she says, I think the main reason that is it the overarching message of don't give up. Even if you think you're not going to survive, keep fighting. And Jennifer Love Hewitt's acting pulls you into the episode, into Maddie's story. She never gave up. She was able to escape her abuser. And the sheer relief when she saw Buck and then she realised it was over. She was safe again. So, yeah. Yeah, I think that even though there were parts of that episode that were a bit... Like, we always have questions about every episode, don't we? Especially with the driving around in circles for hours and hours, even though they were only going just there.
2 hours away.
Yeah, that episode was just so... The tension was brilliant all the way through. And, yeah. Like, awful, horrible subject material, but done in a really great way.
Done in a really good way, yeah.
Should we go on to favourite episodes then, since we're on the way there?
Well, we were doing favourite characters. I'm just wondering whether anyone had a least favourite character for this season, just to
Captain
finish
Gerard.
that off. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Gerard, definitely.
Yeah,
I know he was
Gerard.
only in 2 episodes, but those 2 episodes he was so very impactful that he cancelled out everybody else this season for least favourite character.
Yeah.
Can we say Abby, even though no, I'm kidding.
Sure, you can say Abby, but be prepared for me to jump back up on my soapbox and defend that woman with my life again.
No, I think Gerard is such an easy answer for most hated this season because
I don't think
he's
that there
awful.
was anybody else really, unless you...
Doug. We forgot him.
Oh yeah, Doug.
Again, that's an easy answer though.
Like, I guess
Yeah.
both of them are on like the cartoon evil villain kind of level. Like, everyone has to hate them because they are the bad guys, and there's no grey area really for those guys.
I guess we can say what was the woman in Dispatch?
Gloria.
Gloria.
Oh yeah.
I think Gloria would be there, but I think when I was trying to think about who I didn't like in season 2, Gloria is an easy answer, but she was only in there for sort of 1 episode.
Well,
whereas
2,
at least...
technically, I guess.
Technically, but at least Gerard
Yeah.
had multiple appearances and you could really, like, get to know him, even if you didn't want to.
Yeah.
Same with Doug, I guess. Doug had multiple episodes.
Yeah, he did, yeah. And he wasn't horrible in all of them. It was only...
No, Jason was quite charming when he was, pickpocketing Chim.
Yeah. Stabbing him.
Yeah, you could definitely see, like, how... I think they did really well with Doug that, he didn't just come in and was like, oh, I'm so evil, ha 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 ha. Like, he did befriend Chim, and Chim fell for his charms as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even Charles Manson was supposed to be a really nice guy. So...
Well, that's it. Like, abusers aren't just evil 24/7 because otherwise, like, no one would go near them.
Yeah. That's why we have to believe them when they say things about people.
That's it.
Ugh. Yeah, there have been some horrible people in this. I was thinking
Some awful people.
awful people.
Oh, no.
I was trying to think of like whether the porch pirate lady was in this season or if it was in season 1. She was pretty horrible.
She's in both.
She's in both, right?
Yeah. I'm fairly sure she's also in Lone Star.
Oh God.
As a porch pirate?
Yep.
Oh,
Oh,
bloody
wow.
hell, Tim. Tim and Nia, stop plagiarizing yourself challenge.
Yeah, like she moves to Texas for like part of her rehab.
Oh really?
Oh. Oh, that's hilarious.
It was definitely like the Leo pointing meme when I watched it. I was just like, hey.
Okay, cool. Now that we are sort of unanimous in our hatred for Captain Gerard and Doug,
Yeah.
with honourable mentions to Gloria, let's go on to episodes. So what was everyone's favourite episode?
All right. Well, I already said Fight or Flight for tension and storytelling reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say for pure hilarity / like gut-wrenching sadness, Dosed was up there for me.
Yeah.
That
Toast
was
is pretty good.
like it was weirdly juxtaposed with the the sadness and the seriousness of Bobby kind of relapsing and then thinking about his family and how he lost them, and plus the team being like extremely high. So I don't know. It was just
plus you get Taylor Kelly
and Taylor Kelly.
I will always be a Taylor Kelly apologist. I'm not even sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alice, what about you?
I was going to say Chimney Begins. I'm going through the episode list and I think like the way they do Chimney Begins is so good.
Yes. From a film kind of cinematography point of view, it's brilliant.
I think Buck actually has to get a special mention too.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I do love me some Buck. So yeah, my two favourites are definitely like my favourite character-centric, so...
Well, that makes sense.
I'm easy to please. Give me Chim bleeding out and Buck getting fucked over and I'm a happy man.
How about you, Bex?
I have two. The wanky answer, if I want to appear like intelligent and cultured, is Chimney Begins, just because I appreciate the artistry that went behind that episode, the way that they incorporated Chimney's reality with Chimney's life flashing before his eyes, the way they merged all the different layers, the absolutely inspired use of the Radiohead song in that in the waiting room scene where Chim is bleeding out but not bleeding out, and yeah, I think that is the high point of the season as far as technically it is the high point of the season. Having said that, it's not an episode that I will just put on and watch for fun.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. That is my wanky answer. Yes. Oh, yes, Chimney Begins. But if you asked me really what my favourite episode would be, it would be Stuck. And I think that's because we talked a lot during the first season and this season about the themed episodes, and I always keep coming back to Stuck being the example of how to do the themed episodes well, because they had the theme working on both literal and metaphorical and emotional levels, and it's a Chris and Eddie episode. And how can you go past Chris and Eddie and Buck and the 911 being the 118 being adorable with Chris all episode?
Yeah,
you can't go past that. That's like the heartwarming episode. So that is my favourite of season 2, just because it's so fun to watch and so well done, and it's a good ensemble, but it still moves the storyline forward. It's like everything that's good about this show is from Stuck.
Yeah, and then they follow it up with Awful People, which I think is probably one of our least favourite, maybe.
I was going to say, yeah, I think Awful People was one of my least, for sure.
Yeah, it's just none of the sort of storylines from that episode were particularly impactful in any way.
It's the opposite of how not to do a themed episode.
Yeah. Yeah, they were. I mean, they were all awful people, so I guess they were on theme. But
I guess like Stuck was, you had people being literally stuck, and then you had people being like psychologically and emotionally stuck. Whereas everyone was literally an awful person in this show, and like over the top awful.
Yeah.
There's no subtlety in it.
No. Like as if Gloria would have got that far just hanging up on people instantly.
Yeah. And then there was that whole thing about where I think this is one of the episodes where we discovered that they'd cut a whole storyline. So the episode is just filled with filler shots to make up the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like watching 15 whole seconds of trucks racing down highways, freeways, interstates.
Was that the one with the
roads.
tiger? No, that was...
That was Karma from the first
season. Oh, Karma, okay.
Was it? Oh.
Yeah. Awful People was Gloria. It was the protest at the cemetery.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. And they said something about a movie theatre, and it still says
in the promo,
synopsis and a movie theatre, and there was no movie theatre in it at all.
Yeah. Oh, and then Eva showed up.
That's right. And she went back to jail. Yeah, all right. I mean, I didn't mention like the earthquake episodes but I think I'm not sure if I like them quite as much as like the plane crash episode from the first season, but they were pretty amazing, like in the high stakes kind of disaster excitement and tension kind of viewpoint. I'm not counting them in the least favorite. This is in the like high favorite, the most favorite.
In the honorable mention category.
Yeah, they're on the upside of the
They really set the standard for 911 moving forward. So, starting the season off with a high-stakes emergency, a multi-episode arc based on a high-stakes emergency, is a pattern that they continue for the rest of the show.
I enjoyed the way that they sort of progressed those episodes. I don't know, never been in a real earthquake, so I'm not sure how realistic any of it was, but I was gripped. I was on the edge of my seat watching it the whole time. So, yeah. I think my other episode that was my least favourite, though, like even though I enjoy learning more about the past of these characters, I really didn't enjoy the Begins episodes all that much. And I think it's mostly because it's going back to that toxic atmosphere under Gerard, and I just missed the current team. Every time I watched them, I was like, oh, where are my guys? Where's Hen? Like, it was, I was looking forward to getting back to the real timeline after watching them. So I think they're all there on my not so much favourite list.
No, that's fair enough.
But it does mean we can see how far they've come, building the team that they have now. The other one that I didn't enjoy as much was the episode 17, Careful What You Wish For.
Yeah, that one's on my list of episodes that I don't enjoy. And I think it's after watching it for the podcast and nitpicking it and figuring out why I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It's risen up in the ranks of episodes that I do not enjoy watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a strangely cobbled together storylines, like bits from, it's almost like they gathered up the ends of different things that they needed to resolve before the end of the season and just chucked them all in this episode.
Yeah, I think we discussed it in that episode. It feels like it feels badly constructed. It feels like filler. And then you have the storyline with Shannon, which
I feel like they Careful What You Wish For is definitely like shock value more than anything. Like, hey, look at all this weird shit. Now tune in for the last episode next week.
I mean, I'm guessing that they, killed Shannon off for shock value, right? Like, why else do you kill off a character like that in such a dramatic way?
Yeah, so the shock value or to motivate your other characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about all of that stuff in a bit more detail and like a lot more detail in our episode covering that one. So we don't need to cover it too much now because it is sad subject material, but we don't enjoy where they took Shannon in the end or at any point
justice for
in
Shannon.
This season, to be honest.
Yeah, we got some feedback about Shannon as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there we go. Birdie from who's another one of our Supernatural to 911 pipeline victims.
Victims? You say that like it's a bad thing.
Hostages. Yeah, so the feedback we got from Birdie was, Shannon's so upsetting because imagine going through a friend breakup where you lose what you had with your best friend, but you're married and you have a child together, and you're not in love, not really, but doing the actions of being in love, how you know to fix things, but it's not working, and then she dies. And suddenly you're mourning the best friend you actually lost years earlier, and the only people in your life who actually remember her hate her.
Mm.
Which is a good point, because, yeah, like, who's Eddie got to talk to about her? Because he can't talk to his parents because they think that she's a terrible person. So then Birdie goes on to say, yeah, of course, Eddie revises his memory and talks about her as if she was the love of his life. We've already established that's how he knows how to fix things, and God knows he can't just let the only memories Chris has of his mum be her leaving and then Eddie's family shit-talking her. I understand why Shannon left, but I feel like the writers could have explained it in a different way that made it sound less like my disabled child was too much work, which was definitely my interpretation of her on my first watch through. But Eddie Begins helps recontextualize things a bit.
Thank you, Birdie. Great feedback. Yeah, I feel like not having seen Eddie Begins yet. Yeah, I already spoken about this in the last couple of episodes, but I felt like at the time that there was so much more to what was going on with Shannon than what we've seen. And
yeah, like honestly, watching Careful What You Wish For the second time was so much worse, like emotionally, than the first time.
I mean, he can talk to Buck about her because he's already talked to Buck about her. Like, Buck knows that he would, like, he wasn't he telling someone else in one of the episodes that they're sleeping together, but they're married, but they're not actually together anymore or something. Like, he was explaining to Bobby or somebody about this, and Bobby was like, yeah, it's weird. Or something. I can't remember who he was talking to about it. Did I just make that up? Am I writing fan fiction, like, live on air here?
He talks to Buck a bit. I know Buck talks to Bobby about, like, living in...
No, I mean
Abby's house being weird.
Buck was talking to Chim at Christmas tree shopping.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So
yeah.
Eddie had talked to Buck about it, and then Buck was talking to Chim about it. But I think the difference is that Buck doesn't know Shannon. So everything that he gets is what Eddie has told him. So he can't really, pull Eddie up when he starts to romanticize or start to rewrite history. He can only parrot back to Eddie what Eddie has already told him.
Yeah.
Whereas at least everybody else in his life, they wouldn't, his parents, his grandparents, his son, they know her and they can help him fill in the gaps, whereas Buck couldn't do that.
It's a very tragic storyline.
Needlessly tragic.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you want to hear us, expounding on that a lot more, go and listen to our Careful What You Wish For episode.
Yeah, because we could probably spend another hour bitching about it. But
yeah, we've already been there. Let's not go there again. I mean, that episode itself was a weird one to start with, and then for that to be at the end of it was kind of, the nail in the coffin on the not liking it list.
Yes, definitely.
Kind of a terrible, morbid joke to make on that episode. Sorry. I apologise.
No, I just got that.
I didn't mean that at the time. I just realised. I did also have I've got a lot of highlights this season. I realised. I was going through the list, going, oh yeah, I like that one. Like, I know that we do tend to pull these episodes apart and hate on them a lot, but
honestly, some of them need it.
Yeah. But on a surface watch level, I really loved Ocean's 911. I thought it was so much fun to watch the first time. And then when we started talking about it, I was like, okay, there's a lot about this. It doesn't make any sense at all.
No, but like I said when I went on my rant about it, I also enjoy that episode. I am quite happy to switch my brain off and just enjoy the pretty moving pictures and the pretty people and some of the clever ways that they put scenes together and they write it. It still does not mean that I think it's terribly written and it's a horribly constructed mystery that does not work in the genre that they are trying to make it work in.
Yeah.
But I still enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that you give it an honourable mention because Lucy, who we mentioned, wrote in, actually named The Heist as her least favourite episode.
Sorry, Lucy.
But I think she said for the same reason, because it was...
She says, I get what they were attempting to do, but I feel like they tried too hard. The only saving graces were the poor bastard in the armoured truck and the interrogation scene. Yeah. They were the funniest parts, definitely.
The interrogation scene was good.
I feel like the first half of that episode was really good, and then the second half it kind of fell apart a little bit.
Well, like I said, the first half was they were trying to do a heist, but it wasn't even... it's trying to be Ocean's 11, but that was the Ocean's gang pulling off the heist, not somebody else pulling off the heist. So then the rest of the episode becomes the mystery of solving the heist. And they didn't do that very well either, because they needed to have the really long exposition at the end where everyone explained to stupid Buck exactly what had happened. Although I do like the way they did that section because of all of the fourth wall breaks and some of the musical
and the
cues
that was
worked
that
really
was
well.
very Ocean's 11 as well. They do that kind of thing in that movie.
But
you know.
if they had crafted their mystery properly, they wouldn't have needed that scene as much.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I ranted about this for quite a bit in the actual episode on Ocean's 911, so I won't go into it again. Mostly because I can't remember most of what I said about it, and I think
I definitely like it for a switch your brain off episode. I don't like how they portray Buck to be dumb, but also he's season 2 Buck, so I'm not too mad about it.
It is interesting though that Buck tends to be the audience stand-in. If they have not done their job properly by showing the audience, and they need to tell the audience, it seems to be that Buck is the one that they tell it to.
But he is like the youngest and the least experienced, I guess, so therefore he is the child that needs explaining to.
Let me hold your hand while I say this. Living in your ex-girlfriend's apartment is weird.
Yeah, but he acknowledged that it was weird too.
I
did
know.
acknowledge that. Yeah, we could.
Do you think it's weird? Yes. Yeah, me too. Don't tell
And this
anyone.
is Buck 2.0. Like he's grown beyond Buck 1.0.
That's it. He's getting there.
Yeah.
All right, let's give Buck a bit of attention. I did notice through as I was kind of thinking about this season that Buck starts off the season living in Abby's apartment, obviously, and he ends the season in his own apartment, which he only moves into in that episode, like the finale episode, after having been couch surfing in various locations throughout the season. So I kind of got the feeling overall that he had been a little bit lost, a little bit unmoored, I guess, and now that he has a place to call home, hopefully he will be a little more settled in his
I think
life.
the interesting thing is that they finally had him, like, settled just to have a fire truck fall on him. So we definitely left the season, like, the end of the season was Buck not knowing what his future's going to be.
That's
So
right.
he's physically
yeah.
settled. He's got a place to live. But even like within the place that he's living, he's unsettled because he can't sleep in his own bed. He has to sleep on the couch in his own new apartment.
Yeah, that's true.
But the rest of his life is completely up in the air.
So he kind of did a bit of a 180. He was like set in his career and everything, but didn't have anywhere to live. And now he has somewhere
Now
to
he has
live,
somewhere
but he
to
has
live.
no career, potentially. Poor
Yeah.
thing. Also, his girlfriend broke up with him, and I feel like at the moment I am shipping Buck with anybody who will give him some kind of stability and hang around and accept him for the dangerous
I was going to say
career
with the
that he has
therapist,
chosen.
but after season 1, maybe not.
No, the therapist just keeps essaying him. Let's not ship him. Buck and
no.
Taylor Kelly, I think they were good for each other. She kept
Me
him on
too,
his
I
toes.
love Taylor. As I said, number 1 Taylor Kelly apologist right here.
They were very casual
We
though, like
got some
she
really
was just
good-
like, yeah, I just want to fling, you know.
Yeah, that's it. We got some great feedback from Nikki about Buck and Ali, actually.
Yeah.
So Nikki, friend of the podcast, she's the one who has done the spreadsheet for the trigger warnings we use at the start
Oh,
of every
thank you,
episode.
thank you
Um,
so much for that, Nikki.
thank you.
So yeah, we love you, Nikki.
Nikki.
Her feedback was that she didn't think that they spent enough time on the Buck and Ali relationship for the finale to pay off like they wanted. It's fine because she wasn't really there, but it just feels like a continuation of the Buck is in a relationship with a ghost. It's his girlfriend in Canada, you wouldn't know her.
She goes-
Which is, yeah, a really good point, because honestly, like, the first time I watched the finale, I was like, who the fuck is this girl? And I'm like, oh, right, it's the earthquake girl
Like,
who he saw in, like, one episode.
It didn't
after.
help that the actress dyed her hair between the start of the season and the end of the season. So
Yeah.
she was a blonde when we first met her, and now she's a brunette.
Yeah, and
And they literally have to, like,
yeah, they had to
expose
remind us
that.
who she was. Yeah.
Yes. It's like when you're standing a K-pop group and they dye their hair for the second comeback and suddenly you have to learn who all the members are again because you've just been focusing, okay, that's the one with the pink hair and that's the one with the red hair, and suddenly they've all got black hair and you don't know who they are anymore.
I think Bex is speaking from experience here.
It's almost exactly like that. Yeah, you're right. We didn't know Ali at all, really. Like, it's just similar to Shannon, I guess. We probably knew Shannon only slightly better than Ali. But
like, at least we had a bit of backstory for Shannon.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we know that her and Eddie obviously are married and have a child together. Ali just sort of, like, popped in occasionally. I think they got coffee once, and then they were being really inappropriate in front of a realtor. Like, that was it.
And she was just out of town a lot, which is just code for we didn't want her to come into every episode.
Yeah, we didn't want to pay the actress, so.
He was obviously really upset about, like, he's feeling a lot of emotions about the whole not being able to work again thing. But then it meant that his reaction to her saying that she didn't think she was ready to be in this relationship it felt like it was a little over the top. Like, not over the top, but, you know, it was a very big reaction to, I don't know, her basically breaking up with him.
So again,
which is probably fair.
The show was having.
Like, what are you talking about, Eleanor? I got no idea.
No, I understand, but it's another one of those examples where the show was trying to do something and they forgot to show us that. Yeah. Like, they were trying to make the relationship bigger, to make this scene a little bit more impactful. That, you know, but everything in Buck's life is disappearing out, but they forgot to show us that, so they had to, like, tell us at the last second, and we're just sitting there going, yeah, sure, okay, I guess.
Oh, the writers are basically like, yeah, Ali's been around all year. I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's like, we've literally seen her once. Like, what are you talking? We saw Taylor more than Ali.
No, she's been there twice, hasn't she? She was in obviously the earthquake episode, but then she came back for, like, the coffee with Buck one time.
It was the final scene of Buck, actually.
Yeah, so like, they literally go get coffee together and then we don't see her again until
she helps Buck move into... she gets name dropped when Buck and Maddie are doing their sibling sparring, and Buck is trying to get Maddie to ask Chim out, and Maddie throws it back to him. It's like, how's your girlfriend? Like, the one who's left, what is it with you and girls who leave the state?
Yeah.
But then again, after that reference, we don't see her again until she's helping Buck pick his apartment.
Yeah.
Poor Buck.
Bexism as well mentions that she knows the writers were probably going for the fact that Abby changed Buck into the person he became. But the fact he met Eddie, met Christopher, and he changed into the responsible, happy, friendly Buck we know, I'd like to credit him meeting someone who became his person. He had the 118, but when Eddie came along, it felt like he filled the gap that Buck needed.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because very definitely there was a shift within the team unit by introducing Eddie and bringing Ryan into the cast. And it feels like on paper it shouldn't work that way, but it does. Because if you look at the makeup of the 118, and I'm talking about, like, the core 118, not John and the others who are just floating around in the background and who don't get to go on any calls.
Who don't even get to eat dinner.
But if you look at it from, like,
Sometimes
season 1, you had the core of them was the 4 of them. You had Bobby, Buck, Chim, and Hen, which is a nice little even number, nice little grouping. Then you come to season 2, you add in Eddie Diaz, and suddenly you've got 5. Which, again, you can make it work, because then you'd kick Bobby up outside the group as their sort of superior, and then you'd have the 4 of them underneath Bobby. But Eddie is a paramedic. Like, he was brought in because he was an army medic. So you would think that he would be off to the side with Chim and Hen making some of the paramedics, and then Buck would be over here as the pure firefighter. Mm-hmm. But instead they kind of kick Eddie over to hang with Buck to balance it all out.
Yep.
So on paper it shouldn't work, but it does. There is suddenly you realize that there was a gap in the 118 and that Eddie slips in and perfectly fills it. And it's like, he was always there.
It does feel like
Yeah,
he's always
and, like-
been there now, but, you know.
And Buck is so mad about it at the start, and then as soon as he realizes, okay, no, this is actually what we've all been missing.
It's what he's been missing, because you've been watching Chim and Hen work together as a well-oiled unit, but he's kind of been left with Dad. And, like,
Yeah,
Dad is
literally,
cool,
like-
but Dad is still Dad. But now he has his own buddy. It's like Bobby got him a friend.
Aw.
Literally, it's when you have a dog and then your dog needs a friend,
Yes.
so you get your dog a dog.
Yeah, it's like Bobby was
Which
looking...
is why I ended up with 3 dogs. Because my dog was lonely and needed a friend, so I got him a dog, and then my dog's dog needed a friend, so now I have
It's
another
like
dog.
this is my boyfriend and my boyfriend's boyfriend, Steve.
This is my puppy Buck and Buck's puppy Eddie.
But it works, because then he can send, when you see that this season, it's just Buck and Eddie. Buck and Eddie go and do this. Buck and Eddie go and do that.
Bobby was sick of babysitting, and so he was like, you know what?
I mean,
that guy's a single father. He's great at babysitting.
it does free Bobby up to be more of a supervisory, like, hands-off captain if he wants to be or if he needs to be, because he doesn't have to keep his eye on the
puppy.
the puppy. Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much of that kind of way of looking at it is a product of having watched like 7.5 seasons of this, or, you know, less than that, I guess, of like 6.5 seasons after that. Yeah, not including season 1, because for me it's still very much like Chim and Hen have got this close relationship where they, you know, have beers together and do that, but apart from taking Eddie to the hospital and taking them to Santa photos, that was pretty much the only sort of bestieism that we see to start with. Like, they're not like that tight yet.
No, but when you go back,
in my point of
every
view.
time they go on a call, it's Buck and Eddie. It's one word. Buck and Eddie go and do this. Buck and Eddie go and
Professionally, they are the strong guys that go and do this stuff while the paramedics do their thing.
That's what I'm talking about it from a professional level.
Okay.
Is that suddenly
Yeah,
you've
like
got this
even
guy...
in the earthquake, which is like they've just met each other, and it's like, yeah, Buck and Eddie go and
do this.
Yeah, no, totally.
the sideways building.
And, like, it shouldn't work
Yeah.
because Eddie being a paramedic, you would think that he would be doing the paramedic shit, but it's like, no, I need you to... Your medical training is useful, but I need you just to be a firefighter so you can be Buck's partner, so that Buck has someone to, you know, belay him when he does the maneuver, so that you can go and, like, hang off. You can go and stand at the top of the bridge while he goes down to try and convince Lola not to jump, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So professionally, they become a unit. They become professional buddies to balance the paramedic buddies on the other side, with then Bobby sort of at the top of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, question: do we think that Eddie and Buck would have become friends if Eddie had met Buck 1.0?
Oh no, he would have hated Buck 1.0.
Do you think so?
Yes. Yeah. Because, no, think about it. You've got Eddie who is like, he is a father. He was in the military, so before Buck corrupted him, he was very, very definite about following orders. We've already talked about, you know, he's a good Catholic boy from Texas, so he has very sort of narrow morality when it comes to sort of sexuality and relationships. So for him to come in and meet Buck 1.0, who is stealing fire trucks for hookups,
Literally stealing fire trucks for hookups.
and for hookups, he's just like going through women like they're Kleenex. Eddie would not have wanted any part of Buck. It might have been a little bit of sort of ingrained jealousy that he wished, because he never got to have that, because, you know, he went from being... Like, I'm still saying that he was a teenager when Shannon got knocked up, so he went from being a teenager to being in the army to being a father and then being a firefighter, so he never got his chance to steal a fire truck and hook up with women that you meet on calls. So it might have been a little bit of lingering jealousy, but yeah, he absolutely would have hated Buck 1.0.
Maybe.
And he definitely would not have let Buck 1.0 anywhere near his kid.
Oh, God. Yeah, no.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how that changes everything next season. I know only the slightest inkling of what's coming, so.
I think the only other thing we got was from Mads, who I think I mentioned last week, who's helping me with some fanfic stuff.
Yep.
Basically said the only season 2 thought she has is that thank God for Eddie and Maddie. Which I think it's definitely an opinion that a lot of the fandom have.
Yeah.
Like, I know when I started, I was told a lot, like, it gets better in season 2, it gets better in season 2. And it does, it definitely does, but that's not saying that season 1 is bad.
Yeah.
I think season 2, because they were more secure in their position as, like, season 1, they only had 10 episodes and there was always probably that doubt in their heads of, are we actually going to get picked up for a second season? Season 2, they got picked up, they had 18 episodes. They had a little bit more reassurance that they would be able to keep going for a third season. I have not looked up any of the network news and when they ordered seasons and how many seasons they got greenlit for, so I'm just talking on my ass here. But I feel like with season 2 they felt more secure in their position and allowed them to do those multi-episode arcs with the stories.
Yeah.
So it took, rather than just doing a 1-episode plane crash, you got your 3-episode earthquake. And especially the last 5 or 7 episodes where they had breadcrumbs dropping in each episode which linked episode to episode, which then all paid off.
Yeah.
In the last episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I think I mentioned in one of the episodes. It starts with Broken, which then introduces Marty, which then introduces Ocean's 911, which then introduces Bobby Begins, which then introduces Freddy, which then gets us into Careful What You Wish For with the mail bombs, which then gets into the culmination with the season finale. So, You've got 5 episodes that aren't necessarily part 1, part 2, part 3, but they had this lovely flow through all 5 episodes so that they're nicely linked. Like, those 5 episodes, the writers knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Which we didn't see in season 1. I think every episode in season 1 was very standalone-ish.
Yeah.
Lucy and Bexism say the same sort of thing with season 2. So Lucy says, I feel like in many shows, season 2 will always be a big step up from the first season. They have an audience, they have the universe set up and can relax a bit, maybe get into more of a groove. 911's no exception. Though, to be fair, I feel like every season pretty much ramps up from the one before in this show. It almost feels like a challenge, especially with the 3-part disaster premieres. And Bexism mentions the difference in quality was enormous. The colour gradings completely different. The camera work was much more professional. The characters seemed to even out. And it was like the writers knew who they were writing at that point instead of being all over the place. And the costume and makeup department did a much better job of hair and styling.
Right, yeah.
Interesting. Those are interesting observations. I don't really notice the cinematography and the camera work. So
I think that's what's interesting hearing from Bexism. I normally call her Bex, but we have another Bex, so I'm going by her full username. Her full legal username here. Is that because she does a lot of editing, she would notice that sort of stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely interesting to think of it through a different eye.
I just thought of another question that we asked in the season 1 wrap-up that I'm going to ask for the season 2 wrap-up. Do you have a favourite emergency or a favourite call from season 2?
Oh, geez.
Ooh.
Okay, I'm going to have to look back through the list of episodes again now.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same thing. I'm like, what?
While you do that, I can probably answer, because since I've asked the question, I had my answer prepared.
Yeah, go for it.
Surprisingly, considering how much shit I gave it when we actually watched the episode, the water bomber.
Oh, yeah.
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 I know that once I looked into it, it like shattered the glass, it burst the bubble, and I realized how absolutely 100% inaccurate it is. But there is still something so awe-inspiring about this massive plane just swooping down and dropping all the water on top of the houses and the trucks, and then swooping away again, flying away again.
Yeah.
So I think that
was also a very informative episode because so I have just moved to a bushfire prone area. We have had a couple bushfires here over the last 15 years-ish. Anyway, my dad was talking about how the last time there was a bushfire, he saw like the planes dumping water, but he's like, oh, they weren't dumping them like on a fire, they were dumping them along the power lines. And I was like, well, that's because it's actually a fire retardant, not something to fight the fire, and it's to prevent the fire. And he's just like, okay. Like, facts.
Don't say that television
so yeah,
never
very
told you.
informative episode there. Yeah, that's it.
And then I think honorary mention would have to be the crowd of people rushing to help lift the truck off Buck.
Oh,
the
yes.
season finale.
Oh, yeah.
Just, again, 100% unrealistic, and it's not even that kind of amazing. It's just, a bunch of people coming to lift a truck a little bit to pull Buck out. But like I said, cry every single time I see it.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that just that it elicits such a strong emotional response from me, even if I've seen it 5, 6, 7 times, it kind of has to go on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably cheating by saying this, but the earthquake itself was pretty brilliant as a...
Yeah, no, go for it.
That's fair,
the emergencies that came from that, both with like what the crew were doing, like getting under the building and trying to find survivors, and the stuff that Athena was going through on the freeway and all that stuff was just, it was great.
Strong-arming small business owners.
Yeah, that part not so much, but, the car on fire and all that stuff. I know at the time I was like pretty critical of all of that, but, it was exciting. A lot happened.
I think that's the great thing about like doing this sort of wrap up thing. Like when we're watching the episode for the show and we're so deep into it, we're pulling it to pieces. We're holding this part up and saying how terrible it is. But then by the time you get to the end of the season, you can take a step back and actually go, actually, you know what? I really did like this.
Yeah.
And it's valid.
Like I actually love this show.
Yeah, we do love this show.
I do love this show.
Even if we're just saying every week how stupid everything is.
But we're saying it with love.
Yeah.
That's how we show love. Like speaking of like awful, unrealistic emergencies, I was like my first like gut reaction was the shark on the freeway. Like it's so dumb, but it's so heartwarming.
Yeah.
And you get like the whole Jaws thing, and it was just like, oh right, those Jaws. Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say also in terms of calls, apart from the earthquake, the actual call that led to the Ocean's 911 heist thing.
I was about to say the same thing. Yeah,
that was one of their best ones, I thought.
The call is good. Yeah. And like with the poor guy stuck in the armored truck.
Yeah.
And like yelling like at Buck asking things, and Buck's just okay. So it's like, what the fuck?
And then the team just pulling out all the drills and stuff, and you're just like, where did they get that from?
And then the maggot call as well, because it's another like fantastic Buck moment where maggot.
Yeah, that one's good.
And that's one of the ones that has like no bearing on the rest of the episode at all. Like absolutely no relation to what is happening else in that episode apart from the theme.
Yes, apart from the fact that she says the title of the episode
Yeah.
in her speech to the camera. Yeah, otherwise it's just completely random that she has a botfly in her face.
Yeah.
It's just so gross, and it's one of those ones that it's like, okay, this is definitely based in some sort of real life.
Yeah.
I think botflies are pretty well known to do that, though.
Oh, I don't want to think about that.
Pretty sure I've seen that, and I think probably every medical drama worth its salt has had some kind of botfly infestation plotline.
And the whole, have you been to Central America? Or is it Central or South America?
I think it was both. Have you been to Central or South America? And she's like, no.
Yeah.
I did just come back from Belize.
Yeah. Like, yeah, okay, cool. That's what this is.
You just reminded me of the
yeah, it's just so stupid.
tapeworm one from season 1. It's just like gross factor, but also hilarious.
It's great. Like I really like the emergencies that are just so like either really stupid or like really gross.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the tapeworm, the maggot, and yeah, the shark is just like, why? And then the
Yeah.
yeah.
None
And
of it
then, like,
makes
the guy
any
got
sense.
bitten, and they're just like, how did you get bit? Okay, whatever. Like, moving on. And he's like, don't hurt her. It's like, wait, no, okay. It's fine. We'll get her to the water. It's all good.
The other one I was thinking of was the beauty pageant call that they all went too high.
Yes.
The teeny tiny little ladies.
Yeah.
So tiny.
We're everywhere.
So silly.
Which was actually the woman with the shoe through her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Isn't she?
literally, she had a shoe
a
through
high
her
heel
face.
through her face. God.
And she was trying to contact the plastic surgeon.
But he was on holidays in the Bahamas or something. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someplace expensive.
it's so funny. Yeah, this show's pretty funny sometimes. I guess.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I'm not going to mention which emergency it is, because we're not there yet, but, like, one of my all-time favourite emergencies in this show, it's just so dumb. And when we get there, I'll mention it, but it's, like, one that I think, I have no idea which episode it's in, I don't remember which season it's in, but, like, it's one that I think
it's
about all
stuck
the
in
time.
your
And
mind.
it's just,
Except,
yeah, and it's just so dumb, but it's honestly, like, one of my favourite emergencies ever in this show. Because so dumb, and I love it so much.
Now I'm really curious.
well, you'll have to talk about it later because I don't want to know yet. Are you I was going to say you're typing, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry, she
Like,
literally just dropped it in the group chat.
No, I dropped it in the, like, not...
In the spoiler
like,
section.
the one without Ellen,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, just so dumb, but it just sticks with me, and it cracks me up every time.
Yeah, I can see that.
Cool, so we did get a fuck, marry, kill
Hey!
suggestion from Lucy as well. So we've got fuck, marry, kill, Shannon, Josh, and Sal.
Oh, God.
I think that's almost too obvious.
Too easy, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for science, what is your answer?
For science, you fuck Shannon, you platonically marry Josh, and you kill Sal.
Oh, see, I was doing it a bit different.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
I'd marry Shannon because she deserves to be, like, in a good marriage for once.
Yeah.
No offense, Eddie.
They could have
I'd
done better.
fuck Josh on a drunken night out and absolutely kill Sal.
All right.
Okay.
Ellen?
No, I agree with Alice. I would
Oh!
I think that Shannon deserves better.
See, I don't know that Shannon wants better. See, I would rock her world and then send her on her way. Josh, I would marry for the health insurance and taxation reasons. And yeah, I don't want anything to do with Sal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Bye, Sal. And then I think the last thing we've got is what do you think's coming up in season 3, Ellen?
Oh my god. Okay, so I don't know any of the details at all about season 3. Although I do have an inkling about the disaster that is coming up, and I thought that happened a lot later. So now I'm like, oh, this is happening now. How exciting.
Are you going to say which one you think it is?
No, because I'm hoping that there are some other people out there who are listening who are also trying not to be spoiled yet.
Okay,
but,
yep.
Fair enough.
I have.
When we get there next week, Ellen will be like, yeah, I totally knew it was this one.
Well, I will, because it'll be in all of the previews and stuff. Like, you know, I'll be like, oh yeah, okay. Everyone who quite a few people who I've spoken to is saying that I'm up to season 3. They're like, oh, season 3, yeah. So I'm expecting big things.
Oh no.
Specifically
actually,
of Buck and Eddie.
I think that sometimes when you people have those kind of reactions and it like rises. No, that's not English. Damn, you'd think I was a writer or something.
Maybe I don't want you to help me with it, Bex.
Elevates your expectations.
Yeah.
Increase to the point where reality just can't match it. But I honestly do think that whatever you're expecting, season 3 will do it.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I mean, the last time I really had extremely high expectations, and then we got the supernatural finale. So, you know,
Oh no.
So I'll just keep my expectations to myself now until I.
No, that's fair enough.
But no, I'm looking forward to getting into it.
So going from where we left off season 3.
Season 2.
Season 2.
Yeah.
Whatever season we're on. So we've got Bobby and Athena have just got
they
married.
randomly got married. I was sort of wondering if they would, I was surprised that they did that. They just, I guess at the end of the episode, they were in a place where they were like, why do we want to wait? We don't want to wait any longer for this. We didn't really get a chance to talk about Athena at all, really, did we? Yet. But I kind of expected them to either have a wedding at the end of the season, a proper one where they were all there and they had it in the firehouse or something, you know, a big deal. Or wait until season 3 at least. But no, they just had a small one with the family, which worked fine for the way the episode ended, I guess. But, you know, it was less of a deal than I thought it was going to be, you know.
Yeah, fair. We also had Maddie and Chim deciding to give it a shot.
Yep.
Did anything happen with Hen at the end?
They were talking about trying for another kid.
Hen and Karen are thinking about adding to their family.
Yes.
And obviously Eddie just lost Shannon. And Buck was left on a bit of an uncertain note. He's got an apartment now, but...
Does he have a job?
Or
does he have the job that he wants?
Yeah, not being able to return.
He needs another surgery, and he doesn't know if he'll be back. So do you have any predictions on what's coming up in the first half, I guess?
Well, I think Buck is going to go back to work as a firefighter. That's an obvious one. I suspect that the Hen and Karen potentially adding to their family may end up to be a point of tension. I get that impression from their chat. I don't know what's going to happen with them in that regard. But yeah, that seemed like a bit of a tense kind of discussion, maybe. Maybe it's just the way they played it, but yeah. What else? Chim and Maddie, I know they're together forever. They're wonderful. I love them. So yay for them. I'm assuming there'll be some more ups and downs with them through the next couple of seasons, but, you know, they're great. So I'm glad they've decided to give it another go. They need it. They deserve it. Who did I leave out? Eddie. I don't know. I don't know what Eddie's doing. I don't think Eddie knows what he's doing.
No one knows what Eddie's doing. We're in season 8 and no one knows what Eddie's doing.
He gets a mustache at some point. It's like, I don't know. Some people love it. Some people hate it. So I don't know. Who knows?
A mustache because he's not allowed to have a beard.
The Eddie Begins episode is in season 3, right?
Yes, we get Eddie Begins and Athena Begins.
Oh.
We get 2 this season.
Okay.
Which, I mean, we kind of already have an inkling of Athena's backstory.
Yeah.
I think it's vaguely mentioned, like her mum.
Not
brings it
vaguely
up.
mentioned. Doesn't she sit down and tell Hannah about it?
Yeah, she does. She explains.
In that the ghost that called 911 episode, and she got really invested on figuring out who the bones were.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah, she tells Hen all about the girl
There's
that went
a bit
missing.
of exposition in that episode
yeah.
about it. Okay, well, we've taken notes, and we will be comparing your thoughts.
Did we? If you've got the transcript still up,
Yeah.
What were the theories for season 2 from season 1?
Let's have a look.
It's so hard to give theories like that without revealing like things that I actually know,
I know, it's so hard
that are going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I can't.
But you don't know when things are
No.
going to happen.
Nope, she dodged it.
Hey,
Oh,
thanks past me.
We got you this time.
No, I did just think that mentioning Athena, that we went a little bit more like in the first season. I think they were really leaning on their, you know, famous stars. Like there was a lot more Bobby and Athena, not together at that point, but like they were in everything a lot more. This season they kind of padded it out with the ensemble cast a lot more. So even though we did have quite a bit of Bobby and Athena stuff, it didn't so much feel like it was the Bobby and Athena show anymore.
I guess
Does
that
that make
goes
sense?
to the talking about them feel the writers and the showrunners feeling more secure in the second season. So yeah, first season they probably were very heavily focusing on Angela Bassett and Peter Krause and Connie Britton because they were the major draw cards. They were the named stars. They were the ones that, oh, Angela Bassett's in that. Yeah, I'm going to watch this. But I think once they had established and they'd got their audience, they went, okay, cool. We sucked everybody in with Angela Bassett. Now let's show them some Oliver Stark. Or let's let Aisha spread her wings a little bit. Or let's give Kenny a chance to shine.
Yeah.
I've got to say, it's interesting from my perspective because I had no idea who Peter Krause was, but knew Kenneth Choi from Marvel. And the only thing I knew Angela Bassett from was
Marvel.
Black Panther.
Black
Yeah,
Panther,
literally. So, like, I came in and I was just like, who the fuck is Bobby? Like, I had no idea what he looked like, had no idea why he was there. Everyone's like, oh, he's a big star. And I'm like, from what? Like, who is this guy?
See, now
Still
I
don't
knew
know.
Peter. I'd watched multiple shows
Yeah.
with Peter
Oh, most
in it.
people do, yeah. But, like, clearly he just was not on, like, in any of
wasn't
the
on your
shows that I watched.
No.
Yeah. To be fair, all I've really watched is Supernatural and Marvel. So, like,
Well, there's
but
plenty
yeah,
of
I'm
both
just
of
like,
them.
but Kenny's in this. Like, why is no one obsessed with, like, why is that? Yeah. And then, obviously when Jennifer Love Hewitt joined, I knew her from Ghost Whisperer, so.
Yeah, well, she gets a lot more focus in this season too, obviously. Coming in being a big name.
Which I think, I wonder if that was their attempt to bring in a younger audience. Because Angela and Peter and Connie were probably bringing, like, I'm aging myself here, but they were bringing in the 30 and 40-year-olds, an older audience. And then maybe
I was going to
they
say older
thought,
because I'm in my 30s and I have no idea who Connie Britton is either.
okay, so, yeah, so, like, I'm in my 40s, so, yes, I had watched Connie and Peter and Angela in shows and movies, so I knew who they were. So I'm wondering whether the show went, well, we need to bring in a younger audience to be able to sustain our audience number, so let's bring in someone like Jennifer Love Hewitt who, like, I would also know from, say,
Was massive in the
Party
90s.
of Five,
yeah.
but then you've also got, like, the Ghost Whisperer generation.
And we'll throw in that guy from Step Up 4 as well.
Who?
Yeah, I had no idea who he was. We had this discussion. I have no idea about any of the Step Up movies.
No.
Yeah, I think we need like a hiatus episode where we just watch random things that
That we haven't each seen, so we can discuss them.
Mind you, Ryan Guzman has the weirdest digital footprint. There's a clip of him interviewing Britney Spears at one point.
He's been in a lot of music videos, right? Like dancing.
Well, he was a dancer.
No, well he wasn't a dancer. He was hired for Step Up 4 and had to learn to dance. He's not a dancer.
Oh.
Which is why it's so funny.
Huh. So once again, they just looked at him and went, well, you're pretty.
Literally, yeah.
Okay.
You'll do. Was a bit obsessed with Step Up for a bit there.
So we had a little bit more feedback for this week, or for this season, that actually just came in since the last episode that we did on the season finale.
Yeah, through Spotify, which is always exciting.
Yeah, you can go in, like, through Spotify, you can comment on each of the episodes that are on there. So if I take a few days to respond to those comments, it's because I don't actually get any notification that they're there. I have to actually log into Spotify and find them. So, but I love when I do log in and there's comments there. I'm like, oh my God, people are listening. Anyway, Kira, thank you very much for sending in a comment about Athena's wedding dress. We were kind of a little bit, I don't know, maybe. Well, I guess we were critical of the dress. we were confused mostly, weren't we, in the last episode?
A little bit, yeah. But no, Kira actually linked the dress itself, which doesn't look like it's available anymore. But it's cool to see that it has a page, I guess.
Yeah, it's one of those worn on TV websites where they look up what people are wearing, like where they post about outfits that people have worn on TV and where you can get them if you're so inclined. So yes, turns out this dress does actually have black straps underneath the white or creamy kind of off the shoulder kind of sleeve. I don't even know. I mean, long story short, Angela Bassett looks amazing in it, as she always does. We just wanted to make sure we reiterated that.
She'd look amazing in a paper bag, let's be real.
Yeah, she looks absolutely amazing. But yeah, we were just a bit confused about the dress. But yeah, it turns out that there's supposed to be what the dress looks like. So, okay.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kira, for your feedback.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I also, just before we wrap up as well, I'm going to give a possibly controversial opinion.
Uh-oh.
Oh, here we go.
I thought...
Bracing myself.
I thought that they rushed Bethina. I like Bethina together, but I would have preferred to see their relationship. Like, we got pretty much their first date, and then we cut to season 2, and they were, like, very much a couple.
Yeah.
See, I think I'm okay with that aspect of it because there was a time jump between the end of season 1
I understand
and
that,
the end of season 2. I do agree with you in that there was no burn.
Yes.
It was like he hugged her hello in one episode and then 5 episodes later he's making goo-goo eyes at her. And you can kind of retrospectively go, well, it started when he handed her his cock, and so he's possibly been, like, covertly making eyes at her for, like, 5 years. And it's only at the end of season 1 that he finally decides, well, I like this woman enough that I'm going to give up my suicide plan and, go for it.
Yeah, I just, like, because as I said, I like Bethina now. I just wish there was more of a slow burn, because when I first watched the show, like, obviously I was binging as well.
Yeah.
So I finished season 1 and then went immediately to season 2 and was like, oh, they're
together now.
Together now. Whereas we got that more with Maddie and Chimney, where, like, you see them, like, they have one episode where Maddie is like, oh, he's really cute. And then we see it from Buck's point of view, where he's just like, hang on, when have you guys been hanging out? And, like, you get sort of, like, they've had this burn where they've been going to dinners together, going to karaoke together, and Buck's just like, wait a minute, are you guys dating? And they're like, no. And then it takes until the end of the season
again,
for
Buck
them
is
to
the
actually jump
audience
in.
stand-in.
Literally, it's so good, but they do it really well with Madney, and I think that's why Madney are my favourite couple in the show, because you do see their growth together and you see that slow burn.
Which again, I guess, could go back to season 2. They had security, they had time. Season 1, they got to the end of that run and went, shit, we actually get to do a second season. We need to establish some stuff, so we're just going to chuck it all in the last episode. We're suddenly going to have our suicidal character be okay with living a little bit longer so that he can have this romance, because the show needs romance, because we haven't had any real romance for the old people. So
well, even they didn't really get, we sort of skipped over their romance, like,
yeah, that's what I meant.
Exactly.
One day, yeah, that's right, you said that earlier, but like, we didn't see any of their. And when we also, like, even though in this season we saw Bobby in his past, like, getting back into drinking and whatever again. And we got that one episode, like, Dosed, where he did, take drugs again by accident, I guess, and then was not okay about it after. But that's the last we hear of that at all. It's just done with. They don't discuss it anymore.
Yeah, Bobby literally goes from suicidal in a church to basically, like, skipping down the road.
He was excited to plan his wedding, which is great.
Exists.
I'm glad that he was able to do that. But it's often a lot harder than that for people, I think.
I think that ties into what we were saying about
And,
Maddie.
like, Athena just got divorced.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the show has this really bad habit of bringing up traumatic storylines and traumatic plot points for the drama and then dropping them as soon as they're difficult and not fun to watch anymore.
We shouldn't be we should be used to this, because it happened in Supernatural all the time. Like, those guys went through some, like, really horrible shit, like, all the time. And
but I think we would be, if we were doing a podcast about Supernatural and we were watching it episode by episode, we would also be going, hey, why has nobody brought up that Sam spent all this time in hell?
Yeah, there were a lot of things.
Monster of the Week definitely. Just like, what are they, like, remember that time that everyone was, like, really upset about this and then
suddenly
stopped caring? Yeah.
We never mention it again. Yeah.
But I think with 911, it's possibly, it hurts a little bit more, because at least with Supernatural, we were aware how shit the writer's room was. And we were well aware.
Yeah, like, that was a CW show.
We were well aware of, like, the revolving door of showrunners and how the show ebbed and fell depending on who was in charge, and that, the writers were not playing nicely together. But 911 seems to have a more cohesive, at this point anyway, it has a showrunner who seems to have a grip on the writers' room. The writers' room seem to be working together. So when they do go for broke with a good storyline and do it well and then just drop it hurts that little bit more, because you know that they could have done it better.
I wonder how much is the network, because I've heard, like, a lot of things, like, Tim Minear apparently was gunning for, and the network were just like, no, we're not doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Again,
we also have to remember it is a network. It is a serial network television show. It's not a streaming service. It's not cable, so they are sort of restricted in what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I wonder if the network were just like, yeah, you've got to get the two stars together. And they were like, okay, I guess.
It's just
Athena's
power. She fixed
I wish we'd had a bit more.
She's just so amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe we're all just so used to, like, the deep emotional depths of fan fiction that we
that too.
We expect that kind of emotional intelligence in everything.
They do it so well with Madney, though.
But I wonder how much of that was pushed by Jennifer Love Hewitt, because it's not a secret that she said she would only do that storyline if Brian Hallisey played Doug. So she knew what that storyline was going into it. I'm wondering, like, again, she said, I don't want Eddie to be Maddie's love interest. I want Chim to be Maddie's love interest. I'm wondering how much she went in going, if we're doing this storyline, if this is Maddie, I want A, B, C, D, and E. And she pushed hard for her storyline and would only agree to do it if it worked the way that it did, because she had that much respect for doing that storyline correctly, because it is such an important storyline. Whereas maybe the other cast members can't do that, or don't have that opportunity.
Well, thank you, Jennifer Love Hewitt, if you're listening. You did a great job there.
I'm sure she is. She tunes in every week. It's fine.
You're amazing. Thank you.
We're excited for your Christmas movie.
Do you think we have wrapped up season 2 enough? Do we need to wrap it up any tighter?
I think it's in a nice little bow.
I mean, to be honest, it did end on a nice little wrapped up moment. Like the end, I don't think it was an episode that could have finished the whole. Like if the series had ended there, that would have been very unfulfilling. But it's not a cliffhanger, is what I mean. Like there's no huge reveal right at the end. Like obviously we know that Buck is sort of injured and, you know, in an uncertain place. But
but he's not still under the truck.
Yeah. He's in a place where he's okay. Everyone else is doing all right at the moment. Eddie's just been made like a full firefighter.
And a widow.
Yeah. That's not a happy thing, but, you know, it's an ending, I suppose. You know, it's not like some series, like especially Supernatural, you'd always end the last thing on the cliffhanger. So you're sitting there through the whole hiatus just going, what the hell is going to happen? But yeah.
Oh, I still remember, because I was watching live back then. I still remember at the end of season 3.
Season 3.
Oh God, that was a long time
season
ago.
3.
When Dean went to hell.
Yeah, so I watched live from 1 to 6, and then halfway through 6 I dropped off until the whole show was out. But yeah, it was insane, because we were so convinced that they were going to get out of the deal somehow, and then Dean died, and we're like, huh?
Yeah.
And none of us ever guessed that it was going to be Angels and what Castiel would bring to the show.
That's because Kripke was adamant that he wasn't going to do Angels.
Yeah, he said there were so many interviews where he's just like, oh, you know, we don't want to get that religious. We don't want to bring in angels.
We don't want to get that religious. Next minute.
Literally.
Then Misha Collins walked in and he went, you know what? The thing about angels is that I think we need them.
And if we're going to have angels, I guess we better have God as well.
But yeah, that moment where Dean it's burnt into my brain forever, and I was like 14, and Dean like hanging by the hooks in hell, and then it just ends, and we're like, huh?
Yeah, it's a great finale, that one.
And we had to wait months.
Yeah,
months.
Speaking of a show that has to escalate every single season. Yeah. And it had a whole 15 seasons. Oh gosh. Anyway, no, I think we've wrapped up season 2 pretty well. So, season 3. What have we got coming up in the beginning?
It says, Athena's routine traffic stop reveals a shocking kidnapping on the all-new season premiere of 911. Athena enlists the 118's help when a teenager speeds out of control on the freeway. Meanwhile, a routine traffic stop uncovers a shocking kidnapping, and Buck struggles with his recovery.
Okay, so far it sounds like a standard episode. Mm-hmm. Nothing out of the ordinary.
I suppose we should get the triggers that Nikki has so carefully put together for us.
Yeah. Love Nikki.
So, trigger warnings for the premiere of season 3 is we have an out-of-control car, a child driving an out-of-control car, claustrophobia, a high-speed pursuit, kidnapping, a pregnant woman and baby at threat, gore, which is like standard just for blood, stabbing, and a natural disaster.
Interesting. That's a lot, actually, in one episode.
I think I will say that a lot of those triggers relate to, like, multiple triggers relate to single storylines.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not like every single trigger is a storyline. There's one storyline that has a lot of triggers that need to cover it.
Okay, so like, we obviously, by the time you're hearing this, it's too late for you to send feedback into us for us to read out in this episode. But if you have thoughts about season 2, we would still love to hear them. You can put them in a comment on our website, or you can put a comment in Spotify, or you can send us email, or you can contact us on social media as well. All of the information on how to get in contact with us is on our website, which is thatwewishshow.com.
Yeah, we have a Blue Sky now.
We're on Blue Sky, yeah. I should mention that. I think the entire kind of fandom in general community of, people who dislike X, Twitter, are moving over to Blue Sky, it seems like. So we are also there, and come and follow us at That We Woo Show there too. And thank you so much to everyone who sent us feedback to read out in this episode.
Yes, thank you so much to Nikki, Birdie, Mads, Lucy, Bexism, and Beckett.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you sharing your thoughts.
We'll talk to you next time about episode 1 of the season 3, which is titled Kids Today. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
911 is a fictional show, but many of the situations portrayed happen in the real world too. If any of the topics we've discussed in this episode have affected you, please know you're not alone. You can call or text numbers in your country for help. Just Google crisis support in your location to find out the number. If you enjoy our podcast, you can help us out by leaving us a review on Spotify or your preferred listening app, and by sharing our social media posts. Find out more at thatwewishshow.com.
Why are there so many bugs in my room?
No, I don't want any pictures of beetles today, okay?
Pretty sure that was a video, Ellen.
Oh yeah, it was.
But no, the little tiny flying guys?
Fruit flies?
I don't think they're fruit flies. They're just
We don't have
tiny.
fruit flies in this country.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. I got heaps of them in my house, in my kitchen at the moment.
Yeah, that's why we have Border Patrol, where you've got to dump the fruit.
I thought we had that so that we didn't get fruit flies in the country.
No, that would be just so that it doesn't get, that'd just be at the airports. This is, at the border when you're driving.
I
Queensland.
can't drive over a border.
You
so
can't
I
drive
wouldn't
over a
know.
border.
No, maybe they don't have them in Tasmania, but we definitely have fruit
I thought
flies
that
on
was
the
just a
mainland.
Queensland thing because we don't want, banana diseases. But no, fruit
No,
flies,
it's
we
South Australia
definitely
too.
have fruit flies up here. I had, a plague of them in my kitchen, during winter, and
Oh
I
no,
had to...
those are vinegar flies. They're not fruit flies, they're vinegar flies.
Okay, are they not little
What?
flies that eat the fruit?
Yes, they are little flies and they are attracted to the fermentation from the fruit, but they're not fruit flies because they show up if you open your compost bin and a whole heap of flies come out. That's the same kind of fly.
Oh,
Yeah, no, according to agriculture.gov.au, we definitely have fruit flies.
okay.
They're just not in Tasmania.
Hey.
There's, a specifically called Queensland fruit fly.
Oh, yay, another thing that we have...
But it looks like it's not in South Australia, which would be why why you've got to dump it at the border.
All right, okay. Okay, that can go in the outtake.
Learn about fruit flies in Australia. It's like bumblebees. I was complaining about how Tasmania has bumblebees and we don't. And Lucy's just like, we have bumblebees. And I'm like, Lucy, if you see a bumblebee, please call the government because we're not supposed to have bumblebees on the mainland.
She has bumblebees?
Apparently. And I'm like, you're
We
not
have
supposed
big
to.
bees, sometimes...
Yeah, we have native bees, but they're not bumblebees. And she's
Native
like,
bees are
yeah,
really
they're,
tiny.
big and...
I've got a native bee hive in my backyard.
Oh, that's cool.
They're really little.
Yeah, native bees are tiny. No, we have the big fuzzy butt bumblebees down here.
Yeah, they're awesome.
They're so cool. The first time I saw one of those in England, I was so excited. I'm like, bumblebee, look at it, it's huge, it's a fuzzy. It's so cute.
Yeah, when we went to Tasmania, literally the first night, we stayed at just a random bed and breakfast thing, and Yeah, we were outside and there was a bumblebee and I lost my shit. I was just like, what? Why is there a bumblebee here? Like, what? We don't have them in Australia. What the hell is going on?
Oh.
And my friend who, like, obviously lives in Tasmania, was like, oh, no, they're everywhere here. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, and they've got lots of wombats. You guys have got lots of wombats down there too, right?
Cradle Mountain, yeah. We don't tend to have that many. We've got wobblies.
Oh, yeah. Wobblies everywhere.
Wobblies and patty melons.
Mm-hmm.